Welcome to the Queer Witch Project, your resource for all things queer and witchy. I am Damona Peacock, a fabulous non-binary neurospicy ordained queerdo with a fascination for all things cycles, symbolism, and patterns.
And I'm Moonkittee, your queer femme, poly kitchen witch, and proud geek. Today's topic is getting started with candle magic.
Ooh.
So, again, as a Sagittarius, fire, candles. Candles are awesome.
I'm having a 90s cartoon flashback moment.
I know,
Fire,
right?
fire.
Burn,
That is what
baby,
I heard.
burn.
We don't need no water. Yeah.
So with candle magic, that's candle magic, honestly, it's one of those easy things to get into if you are a
Yeah.
beginner witch. It's accessible because you can find candles quickly, easily. They're all over the place. What's nice is you can buy pre-made candles. You can get them at the dollar store. I've used those. They're great for ritual work. And you just either decorate the glass or you paint them or carve into them or do a bunch of different things that you can do. We'll talk about later in there. But it's just super accessible and easy. And it's really fun because you see candle magic in some way or another in almost all religions across the world, whether you're lighting
Oh.
a novena to a saint or in temples, in everything. There's candles, and candle magic have been around for centuries. It's awesome.
As well as fire magic and, mythology and reverence for that which fire gives us.
Hmm.
So, it's a huge tie-in. I would say when I was a baby witch, I was not confident in spell work at
Hmm.
all. And I was like, oh, I'll probably just never do that. I've said that a lot in my younger years, and
Hmm.
and I would take that back a million times now that I'm older. But
Hmm.
candle magic is, I agree with you, very accessible,
Hmm.
and there's cute little things you can think about while you're doing it or things you can do with it. And I feel like it's a very cool way to get started on spell work if people have yet to cross that threshold.
Hmm. So, what are some of the characteristics or the properties of candle magic? What makes it so effective?
Okay, first of all, candle magic, because it's tied in with fire,
Hmm.
it has a transformative element to it.
Hmm.
And what is magic if you're not trying to cause some kind of or enact some kind of change? Fire literally is transformative. It takes different elements like fuel and air and heat, and it leaves behind a transformed product. It has
Hmm.
released whatever once was in a certain form is now ashes,
Hmm.
or other remnants, coal, so fire is literally transformative.
Hmm.
What are other things that you think about with the candle magic and
Again, when I think of candle magic, and when I was mentioning before the idea of novenas, and it's transformative, but it's also connective in the sense that if you're talking about how many times growing up, regardless of religion, have you heard, I'll light a candle for that person?
mm,
I will light a candle, I'll say a prayer, I'll do something like that. It's that connection between the veil between realities, whether it's heaven and earth, the spirit world, and the plane of life and existence, all that kind of different things. It's a connective kind of
mm,
medium that crosses over into multiple planes. So there's that other kind of, it's transformative, but it's also connective. And so light a candle for someone, especially growing up Catholic, is a very, very common thing. I know it's common again in multiple major religions
mm-hmm.
across the world. Is that idea of honoring something in that spark of life that is being transformed or transferred, connected to another creature or being on another plane of existence in that kind of remembrance way.
So it's transformative and transdimensional.
Hmm.
The other thing I think about is consciousness, spark of life, Prometheus giving
Hmm.
fire to humans so we can, I don't know, survive longer and cook our
Hmm.
food. But the other thing is fire gives off heat. The candle gives off heat as well as light,
Hmm.
and therefore it is energy.
Hmm.
And when we talk about spell work and we talk a lot about energetic magic, energetic awareness, the awareness of things that you can sense but not prove with the
Hmm.
five senses. So I think that candle magic and fire in general is a representative of that spark of life. And like you said, it's a physical present in front of your face representative of that,
Hmm.
which is within me, within spirit, and the bridging the gap between all of those things.
Right.
I oftentimes will light candles to the ancestors or the beloved dead on certain
Hmm.
anniversaries or holidays as well. So
Hmm.
I 100% transdimensional, energetic. If you think about it, candle magic's easy, accessible, but still also powerful,
And primal.
magical,
Hmm.
primal, full of lore. How many stories were told around a campfire?
Hmm.
A candle is but a miniature campfire.
Hmm.
It's a
Depending on,
small
yeah,
representation.
fire can be as small as a
You're
spark
right,
and as crazy as a wildfire.
right.
It is, and that is in its nature to be such a huge range of a thing, a spectrum. That's great. But again, like you said, the myths of Prometheus and bringing fire to the people, it's one of the first things you learn when you are seeking shelter. First is find water. The second is find some way to create a fire so you can keep yourself warm and keep and build that shelter and build a way to keep yourself alive. It's one of those necessary elements for life.
I would even say it's bordering harnessing the power of the sun
Hmm. In
a
many,
little
many
bit.
ways.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
then the
go ahead.
candle itself
Hmm.
also transforms.
Right.
It melts or
Hmm.
disappears or creates a puddle. You
Right.
know, a lot can be done with the wax.
Hmm.
A lot can be read from the wax or how
Hmm.
the candle melts. So there's more to it than just the fire.
Right. And this is where you start getting into the nuance of how you incorporate fire in a candle, and we're talking candle magic specifically, into what you can do with that. The first basic thing when thinking about candles and the ways to use them is what color. We've talked about color a little bit in some of the past podcasts when we are talking about colors that are assigned to elements, but also colors
Hmm.
that are assigned to different things. So abundance magic tends to be green, love magic tends to be red, or passion tends to be red. Purple tends to
Or
be
pink.
like, or pink, yeah, or purple tends to be something that's more transformative, like a higher spirit conscious connection.
Hmm.
White is a good general purity cleansing kind of thing, and black is tends to be protection. So looking and starting with what color candle you're using is can also be add an element and aspect to what you're going to use it for.
The other thing about spell work is first you have to have a plan, right?
Hmm.
You have to know what your intention is.
Right.
So you know what your plan is, what you intend with your magic, then you make the plan to, what's the best ingredients to
Hmm.
create this recipe for
Right.
the spell work for this magic. And it could even come down to because it's my favorite color. It just
Hmm.
depends on what your intention is. Is it for your
Right.
own your own protection. And also, passionate love can be red, romantic love, pink. And then I also think green with love because that's like the heart, like sort center
Mm.
energy bubble is often labeled as green, but I also think of green as like love for that which grows, greenery of the earth,
Hmm.
of magic of earth. So are you doing earth magic? Are you doing, fire magic? Are you doing
Hmm.
air? I love the idea that color elementals have color associations and
Hmm.
thoughts and feelings have color associations, but also you personally have preferences for
Hmm.
colors for whatever reasons we do,
Hmm.
however we perceive color in life, grow emotional attachments to it. So don't ignore any of those that input when you're trying to put together the best recipe for your intentional magic.
Hmm. And that just goes to the point. You don't just walk into a room and say, "Hey, I'm going to build a spell today, or I'm going to say a spell today." Okay, for what? What are you trying to harness? What are you trying to determine? And I love that
Unless you're
you
really
can
just
put the.
sending out a prayer of energy to people or ancestors or
Mhm. But even
um
that, you're saying, "I'm going to. My intent
right
for
there.
this is to send a
Right.
prayer of energy out to the ancestors." Just not,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm going to do a spell." Okay, what kind of spell? I don't know.
Well, and that's the best thing too, is literally the act of lighting the candle in and of itself
Hmm.
is the magic too, you
Hmm.
know? It's all because I willfully picked up a lighter and or match and
Hmm.
or flint and steel. I don't know how people light their
Intent.
candles.
Hmm. Intent. Intent.
Intent. Yep,
So
exact.
you've got your basic colors. And again, one of the cool things, again, I found is like the moon and the phases of it. If you're not sure what color to use, a white candle is almost always going to be a safe bet. It's kind of like a
Right.
quartz crystal if you're talking about crystalline stones. It's
Mm-hmm.
always, it's just a straight amplifier. And a black candle is almost always going to be great for dark energy, shadow or protection kind of things. And I kind of think of it like the moon versus the dark night sky. So the
Oh,
moon candle is white, the sky is black. So depending on what you're kind of doing, if you can't figure out anything else, try and think, is this something that relates more to moonlight or daylight, or is it something that relates more to the shadow and you could use a wider black
I
canvas?
100% agree with that. Also, the thing that when you're talking about that, I thought of is, doesn't the white color reflect, what's
Yeah,
the word I want?
it reflects all
Light,
colors. Hmm.
and black absorbs it,
Hmm.
right? So that's the other thing is if you want a black candle for protection magic, because maybe it will then absorb whatever
Hmm.
you don't want coming at you, that it'll
Right.
go to the candle. That's a safe
Hmm.
conduit for it. So the black candle will absorb energy, where the white candle will radiate or give off or
Amplify it out.
yep. So that's a really good way to think about it.
Hmm.
And then also you could even think about that with lighter colors versus darker colors. So
Hmm.
maybe if you really want to go have a pastel party, pagan pastel spell work party,
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
think, or in terms of dark color for dark moon, bright
Hmm.
colors, full moon, so there's a lot of different ways you could incorporate that. I love it. One other thing that you can do with wax
Hmm.
is you can draw on it,
Hmm.
or better yet, my favorite, carve into it with
Hmm.
a pen, or safety pin is what I was thinking, like toothpick, any kind of stick,
Hmm.
depending on your candle and the thickness of the wax stuff. But so if you can carve into it, what would you carve into it?
Hmm. You can do sigils, you can do words, you can draw pictures, draw art. That's the fun thing. Like with the nature of the
Names and
spell, it's
dates.
exactly what is it you're, that goes to the next part of the intent is what are you trying to create? We went and had a whole episode on how to create sigils. So maybe if you're attracted to sigil magic, you can create a sigil, put it in there and combine the power of the sigil magic with it. Like you said, names and dates. If you're looking for something that's a cutting and a clearing where you're trying to separate for something, having the name of that person that you're trying to separate or bounce back from, incredibly important. Art, if you can't draw, you can draw a representation of something. A representation of a star has, again, universal aspects and qualities to it that
Mm-hmm.
you can use to represent a whole concept of something with that kind of unified symbol. It's really great. And not only with carving, but I mentioned earlier with when I was a baby witch going to the Dollar Tree and they have the pillar glass candles. And I would take a Sharpie to the outside of the candle of that glass. So you can carve into it, or if it's in a glass jar, you can draw with a Sharpie or something on the outside of that jar, those sigils, or those words or
Mm-hmm.
something else for it. So it will work the same way.
I know an artist. I know it, probably in the Sigil episode we've mentioned her before,
Hmm.
Laura Tempest Zakroff. She's an author and an artist,
Hmm.
but instead of selling prayer candles with her art wrapped around them, she had the brilliant idea to just sell the wrappings, the
Mm.
candle wrapping. So you could obviously cost less to ship,
Hmm.
easier inventory to move. But basically, you can go to her website and buy the stickers that go on the prayer candles. So you go buy your Dollar Tree prayer candles, you get custom wrap, and
Hmm.
there you go.
Boom. And I actually, listen, thinking, speaking of it, I'm looking over here at my altar, which just happens to be right off to my left hand side. And I
Do you
happen to
have one of her
have a Laura. I
candles?
have I have a Laura Tempest Zakroff candle. It was an actual one that she did, so I did buy the wrapper for the
Yeah.
thing. But I also have an example of drawing sigils on the outside. So for those of you who are watching in video, let me grab these really quick because, like I said, they were literally right there. So this is just a very simple one that I've done that has the
Oh,
earth elements. It's just an elemental candle. It's a white candle, elemental,
with
and then it has
sigils.
and then I have some sigils across the back
Very cool.
that I have that mean different things to me and sigils that I've drawn. So those are like that. And then this is again the example of the wrap for the
Hmm.
goddess candle for Laura Tempest Zakroff. It's one of her
I think that was the Mother
yep, the
Matrix.
Mother
Yep,
Matrix
I have one of those too.
candles. So it's a really cool thing that you can super easy, super accessible, does not cost a lot of money
Yep.
to get involved and get started with.
Yeah, and it has imbued with all this beautiful magic and intention already.
hmm And again, you don't just have to start with the big candles too, if you want, because the great thing about big candles is they burn a long time. The bad
Mm-hmm.
thing about big candles is that they burn a long time. So if you're trying to do a quick fire magic thing, starting with a big, huge candle that has a 12, 15, 20 hour burn life, it's going to take some time versus getting a tea light or getting
Mm-hmm.
a like a birthday candle or a chime candle or something like that. And you can do the same thing, which will burn down a lot faster for spell
Yes, I
work.
much prefer like tiny tapers for certain spell work.
Right. The big stuff I tend to leave for longer term spell work versus smaller stuff
Yes.
for immediate.
And I do love having a big candle that is dedicated to feeding the spirits. There was this whole thing where when the spiritual energies visit, they like to feed off of energy. And I remember both times I welcomed my babies home, we had light bulbs burning out and batteries, that we just
hmm
put in that thing burning out on stuff. And I was like, I need to tend to some fire. If I kept a candle lit to feed the energy of the
hmm
spirits and ancestors who are coming to welcome the new life into our lineage or whatever, maybe these little things going on the fritz would end. And it
hmm
totally worked, totally worked.
That's
So
awesome.
sometimes it comes down to having one big candle that feeds the spirits. And I tend to do that starting in October and on
hmm
through, the winter time.
I love it.
I don't burn candles in the summer very often because I live in a place that's,
Very warm.
deep fear and reverence for wildfires way out here in dry ass Central Valley.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about carving. What are some other things that you can do with candles as well? So you can carve into them. What else can you
I,
do with them?
I will often anoint them with
hmm
oils. I like to buy you can get your different like herbal oils, essential oils. Also, some of the stores sell different like goddess oils.
hmm
So
Blended
sometimes
oils.
blended oils. So I like to get one that appeals to I will never put anything on that does not appeal to me on a scent level. I
hmm
cannot if my nose says no, that's an out. But if it's aromatically pleasing, I will dress a candle with that and also with the intention of asking that particular energy, that goddess, that guide
hmm
for their oomph and assistance and blessing for my working.
hmm
So sometimes that's just, putting oil on my finger and rubbing it
hmm
around the wick a certain amount of times, or you can just rub it all and up and down the candle. Again, it just depends on what candle you're using.
Right. Yeah, same thing. I've definitely purchased oils and things before. I've also made my own oils using different herb blends and things like that. Dressing with, speaking of herb, if you are creating your own candles, you can put an oil, something, and wrap them in herbs and stuff around it. Any dried herb that matches the intent, you can sprinkle them. If you're, again, in a jar situation, you can sprinkle the herbs inside. They will burn, and we'll talk more about that later. So be cautious with that. But you can add herbs to your candles as well. That matches the intent of what you're trying to do.
I've seen if you shake cinnamon, have like a little
hmm
cinnamon shaker and you shake it over a flame, the cinnamon kind of sparks up.
hmm
So you could also think about you throwing in a little bit of sparkle magic.
hmm
But again, I know we will go on a rant about fire safety later
Yes.
because it doesn't hurt to bring that up a couple of times.
Right. And again, we've talked about the properties of cinnamon before. It's one of my favorites because, again, it's one of those herbs that transcends planes. So it will work on almost every plane to have that connection to it. So cinnamon's great. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we are holding off on the fire safety thing, which is coming. I promise I want to finish what we're doing here first. So we've talked about candles themselves. And we had this as getting started with candle magic, but I guess we probably could have also labeled it getting started with fire magic, because what are
Mm-hmm.
some other ways that you can work with fire in a magical perspective, a magical practice?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is doing a bay leaf spell.
hmm
So, bay leaves have a lot of magical properties to themselves, and they're
hmm
basically, you can buy them at the grocery store. I
Yeah,
mean, they're in
anywhere.
any herbal aisle or farmers markets, and they're basically a big dry leaf And so they have a lot of spark and magic to them
Mm-hmm.
too. And the best thing about bay leaves is you can write on them. So if you're not burning a candle and
Mm-hmm.
writing on a candle, you can take the herb itself and use it as paper and write your sigil, your spell, your intention, what you want to manifest into the
Mm-hmm.
world. Like, I know they're good for abundant spells or bringing
Mm-hmm.
in work so that you can make a living and stuff like that. So write your on your leaf and then, offer your leaf to the fire somewhere safely
Mm-hmm.
and watch the leaf burn. And then you can also take the ashes and do stuff with them. You can add
Mm-hmm.
water and they can become an ink, or you can wear your ashes, or
Mm-hmm.
dispose of them in a way that's intentional
Mm-hmm.
and special. So
Right. And bay is a really good example because a bay leaf is a quartz crystal, is a white candle. It is again one of those neutral, transformative things that is a vessel that works on all levels of magic. And you don't believe me, even just as a kitchen witch kind of thing for this thing with bay leaves, you can make identical sauces, soups, whatever it is, have the same ingredients in 2 pots, put a bay leaf in one and no bay leaf in the other, and they will taste different. Now, they doesn't have a particular flavor, but it does something. And this has been tested over and over again. I've watched episodes with like chefs who like going, oh, bay leaves are nothing. They don't do anything. And then you blind taste test someone and it's like, nope, this one's better. And it's always one that has the bay leaf. There's just something about it. Its properties that it enhances the way the
I
others
think
do. It's really fascinating.
I find that so fascinating because you aren't meant to eat the bay leaf.
No, you don't eat it at all.
Yeah. Unlike basil, which I love.
Hmm.
I'll eat the basil, but you cannot eat the bay leaf. Is it toxic or
It's not. Well,
considered
when it's
edible?
dried, it's an herb that doesn't break down. So, like a basil leaf, when it's dried, it crumbles and breaks down. It's easy to swallow. A bay leaf, when it's dried, is crunchy and hard, and it doesn't have. It's like too fibrous. It doesn't really.
Yeah.
You can't really chew it and swallow it the way you can basil
I
herbs or something like that.
I will say because of its thickness and its veins, it
Hmm.
is really fun to watch burn because I have
Yes.
burned a lot of bay leaves in my time.
Yes, and that's really fun too. Did a ritual with another friend of mine a few months ago for a new moon spell, and it was her first time burning bay leaves, and she was so terrified. She like the very top like lit up, and she like drop it into a thing. Meanwhile, I'm holding it to the very nub, watching it burn as the ashes are falling. Again, it's one of those things that practice you with it, and if you're not sure what's great with a bay leaf, hold it with a pair of tweezers.
Hmm.
So that
Hmm.
way, if you're worried
No
about burning
shame.
your fingers or something like that, no shame, hold it with a pair of tweezers. That way you can let it burn fully.
Yeah. Or, throw it into a burn safe container.
Right. I found that though, sometimes with the burn safe container, I'll put it over the cauldron and I'll
And
light
turn
it on fire
off.
and then it will burn it. It
Burn
doesn't
them
burn all
out.
the way out.
Yeah.
So to really be able to get it to burn all the way out, you have to kind of really hold the fire on it.
Also, why I use like barbecue lighters with the
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh. Exactly.
yeah. Been there, done that.
Yes, absolutely. But also from instead of bay leaf magic, there's also other types of flammable material, paper. We have done art and
Yep.
burned that to release it.
In fact, we
There's
have made the conscious decision to move from using acrylics on canvas and
Mhm.
burning them to using watercolors on paper and burning that because that's more environmentally friendly of a burn.
Exactly. So yeah, so there's a lot of different things with that in the flame, in the fire. And
Yeah.
again,
And the releasing of it and the
right.
transformation of it. The thing about burning artwork is my thought is that art gets to exist and be beautiful, and it doesn't have to be permanent for
Mm-mm.
it to mean something.
Right.
And so letting it exist for what it is and then letting it go, there's so much magic and power just in
Hmm.
being able to understand that part of it all.
Right. There's fire scrying. So this is something that even
Yes.
as a child, I could just sit before magic, before I knew anything else, just sit
Mesmerized.
and watch the flames and watch them flicker and dance and see the shapes and all of the kinds of things. And you can find interpreting visions. You can get yourself into a trance-like state very easily if you're
Hmm.
watching a campfire or even a candle, but
Hmm.
a campfire especially, or a fire in a fireplace. Now, we're living in a modern age, at least in California here, where fires in fireplaces, they are no longer allowing houses to be built with fireplaces.
Really?
Yeah, you can have gas, you can have a gas insert, but you cannot have a wood burning fireplace
I
in
did not know
any.
that.
Yeah, in building codes since about the mid 2010s. And
I know that there are burn days and non-burn days.
right. And now there's a lot more. Now they've regulated down to burn and non-burn days because again, we have such a heavy wildfire season here, which is sad, but it's realistic. But if you're in other parts of the United States or in other countries, you may still have that access of just putting a fire in a fireplace and just laying there and staring at it for hours, just fire scarring.
The other thing is kind of adjacent to fire scrying is much like when you can read tea leaves left in a cup.
Mm-hmm.
You can gain information on your how your spell work is working by the way something burns
Mm-hmm.
or the way the ashes are left. So if something like a candle magic that you do and it burns and there's almost completely gone, there's practically nothing left, maybe a couple of spots of wax, metal thing that once had a wick holding
Mm-hmm.
it on. And you could imagine that must have been a very powerful spell.
Mm-hmm.
And it
It
used up
consumed
all of its
everything.
resources,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas there's a candle magic that you're trying to do and you're having a hell of a time keeping this thing lit.
Mm-hmm.
And could it be sometimes like a defuncted candle? Sure. But it could be there be a message in the spell being like, not, this is not the right time,
Mm-hmm.
That's a possibility too. So there's messages you can get also in the way something burns, in the
Mm-hmm.
way, a lot of times one of the candle magics that's very popular in my circle of knowledge of people and friends are cutting ties, cord cutting.
Mm-hmm.
So that you would have a candle represent yourself and the person or thing you want to separate yourself from, and have a cord between the two candles. And you'd light the two candles, let them burn down until it burns the cord. And once the cord is burned, it represents that separation.
Mm-hmm.
And even in how fast one candle burns versus the other could show like how one person's ready to move on and the other one may not be. And,
Mm-hmm.
so there's also a lot of information gathering or scrying that can be done
Mm-hmm.
with the remnants of the burning.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Do we miss anything on that before we dive into the next part that we have been teasing all episode?
Is it rant time?
Yes, this is the other side. Again, acknowledging that we are very, very fire conscious in California. I don't know of anyone anymore who hasn't been affected by a wildfire at some point or another, whether they know of loved one, whether they've experienced it, whether they've been around it or seen it or something like that. You can't live in this state without having intimate knowledge of the hazards of wildfires. And wildfires, again, are that spectrum. That's the far end of something, but it starts with a spark. And so with that, the most important thing to remember when you are doing
Only you
any
can
sort,
prevent forest fires.
exactly, when you are doing any kind of fire magic, not just forest fires, house fires, anything like that, do not leave fire magic unattended ever. Ever, ever,
Don't
ever.
do it if you're gonna fall asleep. Don't fall asleep with the things burning. Don't leave it burning and you're off in the other room. Definitely, if you are going to dabble into fire magic, start by updating your fire safety knowledge. Know
Mm-hmm.
where your fire extinguishers are, fire blanket, fire
Mm-hmm.
escape, smoke detectors. I have seen some things, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And also, here's the thing, you can take all the precautions and something can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know what you're going to do in case of an emergency, have your emergency measures planned out in advance.
Exactly.
Know where a bucket of water or a cup of water nearby. So it could be, if it's a small spell, it could be something simple as that,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to make sure you're brushing yourself up on some fire safety because there might come a time that the spell gets unruly or the elements of your spell gets unruly and you're going to have to take action to go ahead and shut things down.
Mm-hmm. And it said wax will melt. And don't think if you're using a container candle in glass will shatter.
I have literally seen that happen twice in a row. Different glass containers, same spell. Not me personally, but a friend of mine. By the second time, I was like, you need to stop doing this spell.
Yeah.
One time could be anomaly. Two times, different containers, same spell. Stop doing that spell.
Right.
The universe is telling you no.
Right. Reconfigure, think of how it can change, think of what might be causing it. But yeah, watch that. I mentioned herb dressings on the outside.
That's the big one.
Dried herbs burn. Like we're
Yeah.
talking bay leaves, burning bay leaves. Dried leaves burn super fast and they catch really fast. So if you are putting those dried herbs on the outside of a candle, I have crafted candles and in the wax, and right now I see everywhere on TikTok these trends of putting
Yeah.
embedding crystals and dried herbs and flowers
I
under the
never
top of a
understood all
wax
that.
of candle, and it looks gorgeous. They look so pretty. But now instead of having a single wick, you are putting a ton of different flammable things that are going to light that entire thing up. If
That
you
is
are not
exactly what
prepared for
I
that, that is a problem.
that is exactly what I think about herbs in the wax is those are just more wick.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a candle like that that I want to burn, I will burn it in a fire pit, a fireplace,
Mm-hmm.
because some places do still have fireplaces,
Yeah.
a barbecue, something that is built to fully contain a fire that will get out of hand. Because you can guarantee that having that many wicks inside your wax, the fire will get out of hand. The wax will
Mm-hmm.
spread. Like it will
Right.
cause a mess.
Right. And there's a lot of really cute little dainty chime holders that are about, oh, an inch or two big, just like super little ones that just hold a single candle. Put that on a plate, on a dinner plate, like a tinfoil container or something like that. So you're giving around each of that thing a good fire break, a good 6 inches around on any given side of a chime candle. Because even that little tiny chime candle can easily max blow up, or not necessarily blow up, but the wax will melt. If any herbs are on the outside of it, because again, that's a really easy way to dress it. Oil and herbs. Oil is also flammable. So if you're
Yep.
dressing for things like that, be very, very cautious about making sure you leave enough space, A, for wax melt off, but also for things that can burn. And here's one that's really silly that you don't realize. Spider webs are flammable. So if you are too close to a corner, and this is one of those things that goes back to what in my first life with my career, I was a property inspector. And as I was
Oh,
checking water heaters, so many water heater closet stuff are outside. People don't look at them, leave stuff, paints inside their water heater closet. They will put brooms. If they're outside, they'll collect dust and spiders and things like that. There's an open pilot light
yeah.
on your water heater. That is flammable. If there are spider webs and things that get in there, yes, that can cause a fire. So watch of your spider webs, beware of your environment and all of those kinds of things. And remember, air fuels fire. So if you are
Mm.
anywhere outside where you have oxygen,
Wind.
wind can catch something, take it, and make it
Hmm.
explode.
So yeah, be aware of your environment and where you're choosing to do this working in. Now you mentioned something, you mentioned tinfoil, and I wanted to do a little like aha moment. I wanted to
Hmm.
share a little aha moment I had around that. Although it's aluminum foil these days, I think tinfoil is what our parents' generation
Right,
called it.
called it.
But I was helping a friend do a candle spell work, and we did it within this ceramic contain ashtray, really. It was an
Hmm.
ashtray, so it was meant for hot things, right? And
Right.
ceramic's supposed to be able to, and it broke, it
Hmm.
split, like it shattered, it went kaboom. And yeah, well, noted. So when we did try to do the same spell, different working, time had passed and came back around to it. I had an aha moment. If you don't want to risk the glass, the ceramic, the plate, the this, the that, aluminum foil, tin foil, it's freaking amazing.
Hmm.
So you can ball it up around the base of whatever taper candle or whatever, and bam, you have a candle holder.
Hmm.
Take another square, ball it up around the second candle, another candle, bam, you got two candle holders, right? And
Hmm.
then you can create a little tray of tin foil, aluminum foil, and ball up the perimeter so
Hmm.
that it contains wax melt off. So now you can also read the shape of your wax or a message in
Hmm.
the wax. And it'll contain, you put your little candle holders in there, you burn your spell, your herbs, your oils, whatever. It's all in that one tray of
Hmm.
tinfoil, right? So then you do the working, is you got the mess in it, all contained, and you get your message. And guess what? Now all you have to do to dispose of your spell is contain
Gotcha.
it all within that tinfoil, all
Hmm.
within that aluminum foil, and then you can either bury it or take it to the dump or,
Hmm.
offload it however you feel is the proper way to do so for your spell.
Hmm. And here's the thing with that, it's not aesthetic. it doesn't look pretty. It's not going to be a TikTok, Instagram fancy kind of work when you are using that kind of tinfoil and everything else. But the thing
But
is,
it's
if you're
incredibly functional.
exactly, and
And
that's what I was making my point, is if you are doing this for a purely aesthetic purpose, then you are not truly doing magic. Now, I'm not saying there aren't beauty magics and things like that, which are involved in it, which is different. But if I would just say, as a caution, if you are doing this to get views, if you are doing this to do something else, then watch where your intention is, because that will also affect your magic. And if you can't do something because it's not pretty enough the way you're doing it, then I don't want to say you're doing magic wrong, but you may need to rethink your priorities of how things are done. Because all these beautiful YouTubers and TikTokers and Instagrams who have these beautiful, luscious, witchy cottage core sets and all these antique things that they're using, some of it's aesthetic, and some of it, like you said, you can do so much magic with aluminum foil, chime candles, birthday candles, and a
mm-hmm.
Bic lighter.
Yep. Yep.
So again, you don't need the fancy things. It can be a lot more functional and easier to do with a lot more common ingredients. And that's really kind of, if you think about what magic access to, were common ingredients. They weren't fancy special things. They were just the things that were around the house ready for them.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, and so you just obviously when you're disposing of items, you make sure that it's not hot anymore. It's not
Yes.
going to melt things. It's not going to
Hmm.
burn stuff. And think about ethical release of it all. But it is so accessible.
Hmm.
It doesn't need to be shiny, fancy, impress millions of followers. It needs to be a means to the end. And the
Hmm.
means is the recipe, is the spell work, and
Hmm.
the end is what you are willpowering through to create, what your
Right.
intention is. I was always taught as a witch that there is intention and then there is follow through, and
Hmm.
you don't get to the end of your desires with intentions alone.
Hmm.
There always has to be the follow through.
Right. Awesome. Well, we have talked a lot about fire.
Mm.
Is there anything that we missed?
You know what? If we have, I'm sure our listeners will let us know.
One more thing, when we're talking about disposing of wax and stuff like that, please don't pour wax down a drain.
Yeah,
If you're cleaning,
much
if you're
like
washing
grease.
candles and everything else, don't pour them down the drain. It will just solidify and it will cause major hassle to your plumbing, and you don't want to deal with that later. So that would be
Yeah,
only other word of caution. But yeah, other than that, I think we've got a lot of things that we've covered.
yeah. Respect the fire.
Yes.
You don't have control over it. You can invite it in as a guest, but you must respect the fire and you must know how to extinguish it if it comes to that. Here's one thing I wanted to ask you
Hmm.
about candle magic. There are different schools of thought when it comes to blowing out a candle.
Oh, good one.
Some people have said or felt that it's disrespectful if you use your breath to blow the candle out. There are candle snuffers.
Hmm.
Sometimes people will I will never do this because it just freaks me out, but they'll lick their fingers and then pinch the wick. So, do you have any thoughts or feelings on?
I think this one comes down to personally think this one comes down to personal preference and maybe a little bit of the intent around the kind of spell that you're doing with it. I will be probably 80-20 with snuffing versus blowing out. I tend to just blow out, but I blow out with the intention of adding my breath as the wind to bring and cast this into the ether. So I blow out
I
with,
like
I'm blowing
that.
this out to let it go versus blowing it out to kill it. And that's where, again, it can be the nature of what you're trying to do. Because if you have something that, again, you're trying to put something out into the ether, it might be something that that you can blow out with no issues. But if it's something you are trying to end, maybe snuffing it would be the better way to do it. Because now again, the intent of what you're doing is that, hey, I'm causing an ending magic, a cutting or a clearing or something like that, where I want a definitive end to something. Snuffing it, now that is a definitive end versus a release. So that's my thought when it
That's
comes
very
to it.
interesting. I've always, because I'll get jar candles
Hmm.
or basically smell pretty
Hmm.
candles.
Yeah.
Like I said, that will feed the visitors
Hmm.
on a regular basis.
I have nothing
So
issues
I'll,
with pretty smelling candles. I'll use them in practice all the time.
yeah. So a lot of the times I'll just blow mine out because to me it's like that personal connection, like
Hmm.
my essence, my breath, my spit. I don't know,
Hmm.
DNA may be in it, but it's my personal connection to that candle, and it's not like death to me. I'll
Hmm.
be back. I'll light you later,
Hmm.
turning you off now and I'll turn you on later, just
Hmm.
like a light switch. So,
To me, it's the same kind of mytho idea that you have to be gifted your first tarot deck. It's again personal practice, personal style. I don't believe in it personally, but there are people who
yeah.
do, and your magic and your mileage will vary.
Yep. And you do what you feel is right for you.
Hmm.
Well, with all of that said, I just want to say thanks for listening. And if you like what you heard, give us some thumbs up or subscribe to our channel or give us some feedback. We love hearing from you.
And if you want to know more or there's an episode topic you'd like to suggest, please contact us at thequeerwitchproject@gmail.com or find us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube with the handle at Queer Witch Project. We upload every other week. And remember, queerness is a key to magic.
Be yourself and love rebelliously.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.